Thank you. Senator Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to take advantage of your experience and expertise to ask you a few general questions, if I could. Before the meltdown in 2008, did you think community banks, I'm defining a community bank as 10 billion or less, did you think community banks were overregulated, underregulated, or just about right? I need just kind of quick answers.
Community banks probably had an appropriate level of regulation. What we did after the financial crisis is we started to impose larger bank regulations on them.
Right. Do y'all, I'm sorry for interrupting, but I just got 5 minutes. Do y'all agree with that?
I haven't spent much time thinking about community bank regulation.
Okay.
I am also not familiar with the community banking regulations.
Well, you're capital experts, aren't you?
I'm a practitioner investing my own money in startup companies, but I am not a banker, and I don't.
That's okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not a banker either.
Yeah.
It just seems to me, I mean, our businesswomen and businessmen need capital, right? We can agree on that. One place to start is community banks. Now, I know community banks, by their definition, they're not going to finance some of the sophisticated deals, but they provide capital. And one of the problems with Dodd-Frank was that they made the community banks spend all their money on compliance. They were hiring compliance officers instead of loan officers. So it would just seem to me that before we get all fancy here, we ought to at least talk about saying Dodd-Frank doesn't apply to community banks. I mean, if a $10 billion bank goes under, it's not going to take the U.S. economy with it, is it?
No, and Senator, I would just state too, 2155 is a very important step in that direction. We had also hoped that the regulators, they're getting there, but we would hope that they would be quicker in implementing some of that as well.
I'm really not trying to be rude, but we only have 5 minutes. Look, I just honestly, I mean, I try to see this from both sides. I just don't see why Dodd-Frank needs to apply to community banks. Now, on the other hand, I read where 5 of our largest financial institutions have about 50% of the banking assets. Does that sound about right to y'all? This isn't a test.
Give or take, it's probably
Okay.
somewhere around there.
All right. If one of them called the Secretary of Treasury tomorrow and said, look, I hate to tell you this, but I'm about to go belly up, do you think Congress would bail them out?
Congressman, Title II of Dodd-Frank creates the liquidation authority to deal with that. It has been used actually in Europe, a very similar system to handle some of the Italian banking issues.
Yes, sir.
So,
Yeah, but
so we do think.
I mean, here's another way to ask this. Do you think our banks are still too big to fail? 5 of them.
I certainly do.
Do you? Okay. How about you, sir?
No, sir.
Ma'am?
I'm not familiar enough to comment.
Okay. Let me ask you this about FINRA. Gosh, this time goes so fast. A lot of awards by FINRA, you know what FINRA is, right? Okay. The brokers regulate themselves. It's supposed to be a level playing field. A lot of the awards, arbitration awards, when they actually find in favor of an investor, go unpaid. About 25%, I think. You familiar with that? I don't want to ask you.
I believe it's actually around 2%.
No, I think it's more than that. I mean, you might be right, but I don't think you are. Do you have any thoughts about what we ought to do about that?
Senator, as we put in our testimony, for the unpaid arbitration awards with FINRA, we think that SIPC should be used as a way to help compensate with that. We think that some of the legislation that's before us today could create a situation where the good actors in the industry are subsidizing the bad actors, and that the bad actors then aren't going to have to pay a price for that. But we do think that those unpaid awards need to be paid, and SIPC might be the right mechanism to do that.
Yeah.
So we
SIPC isn't getting the job done.
we
Otherwise,
support
we wouldn't have so many unpaid claims.
So we support the legislation on the agenda today. We think it's critically important to make investors whole when they lose out as a result of fraud.
Can I ask one more quickly? Teeny weeny.
And quick
Do you think-
answers,
Do you
too.
think it's right to have just two proxy advisor firms dictating corporate governance in America?
No, but I think there are others that have tried, such as PGI and Proxy Mosaic, and there have been barriers to entry. And therefore, as we've done in other areas, such as credit reporting agencies, if there aren't going to be more that are going to be entering there, that field, then there should be a level of oversight to make sure that there is a level playing field and proper rules for the road.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.